My son-in-law, Josh, arrived at my door with a toolbox and a determined look. He said he was here to rebuild my crumbling front porch. For 2 weeks, he worked silently, meticulously. He used beautiful, expensive cedar. He carved a tiny hummingbird into the railing, just because I love them. The whole neighborhood admired his incredible kindness. He never let me pay him a dime. I thought it was a simple act of love. Until yesterday, when I found the crumpled note at the foot of the new stairs. It was in my daughter's handwriting, and it explained everything. Hello. Welcome to Hurt Stories. Let me tell you about silence. Not the quiet kind. Not the peaceful hush of a morning before the world wakes up. I'm talking about the silence that grows in a house when the person you built it with is gone. My husband, Frank, died 3 years ago. Cancer. The swift, brutal kind that takes your best friend from diagnosis to goodbye in the space of a single, horrible season. And after the funeral casseroles were eaten, after the well-meaning friends returned to their own lives, I was left with the silence. It had a weight to it. It lived in the empty space on Frank's side of the bed, in the absence of his whistling in the garage, in the way the supper dishes for one looked so pathetic in the sink. It was a dense acoustic fog that filled every room of my house. My daughter, Claire, is my only child. She lives about 40 minutes away with her husband, Josh, and their little boy, my sweet 4-year-old grandson, Leo. They were my tether. Claire called every day without fail, a bright, cheery check-in that I knew was as much for her as for me. Josh would come over every other weekend to mow the lawn, change a light bulb, the kind of things Frank used to do without a second thought. They were good. They are good people. But their life was a bustling, noisy young family's life, and mine was this quiet museum of memory. The house, our house, is a solid craftsman-style bungalow Frank and I bought when Claire was a baby. We poured everything into it. Frank was a high school shop teacher, a man who believed in the dignity of making things with your hands. Every inch of this place bears his fingerprint. The bookshelves in the den, the built-in window seat where Claire used to read, the porch swing where we'd spend summer evenings watching the world go by. That front porch was his pride and joy. He built it himself the summer Claire turned 10. It wasn't fancy, but it was sturdy and wide and welcoming. Over 30 years of Midwestern winters and blazing summers had taken their toll. The steps had developed a soft, spongy feel. The railings wobbled. The paint was peeling like a bad sunburn. Every time Claire or Josh came over, they'd mention it. "Mom, we need to get someone to look at that porch," Claire would say, her voice laced with a worry that went deeper than would rot. I'd just nod and change the subject. Fixing the porch felt like an admission that Frank wasn't coming back to fix it. That time was moving on and the house, and I, were decaying along with it. Then 6 weeks ago, Josh showed up on a Saturday morning. He wasn't with Claire and Leo. He was alone in his old work jeans, with his truck and a trailer full of tools, and the most beautiful, fragrant stacks of cedar lumber I'd ever seen. The smell of it hit me on the breeze, warm, clean, alive. "Morning, Marianne," he said, his smile easy but his eyes serious. "We're taking care of that porch today." I flustered. "Josh, no you can't. It's too much. I'll hire someone, I've been meaning to." "Already hired," he interrupted gently, patting his own chest. "Me. Claire's got Leo at soccer. I've got the whole day. Just point me to the coffee pot." And that was that. He refused any talk of payment. He said it was his hobby project. He said he'd been itching to work with cedar. He was so firm, so kind, that my protest died in my throat. I made coffee, feeling a strange mix of guilt and overwhelming gratitude. I watched from the kitchen window as he assessed the old porch with a careful, professional eye. Josh is a software architect, not a carpenter. But his father was a contractor, and he'd grown up on job sites. He had the knowledge in his hands, a dormant skill he was now resurrecting. He worked with a methodical, focused intensity. He didn't just tear the old porch down, he deconstructed it. He saved every piece of original wood that was still sound. He numbered them like artifacts. He was an archaeologist, not a demolition man. The first day, he got the old structure down and the new footings in. By the end of the weekend, the skeleton of the new porch was there, square and true. He came every evening after work that next week. I'd bring him a glass of iced tea. And he'd work in the golden evening light, the rhythmic sound of his hammer a new, living heartbeat for the house. It was during the second week that I saw the hummingbird. He was sanding the new railing, a long, smooth piece of that gorgeous cedar. I brought out a plate of cookies. As I set it down, I saw it, a small, exquisite carving of a hummingbird in flight, its wings a delicate blur, tucked into the corner of a post at just the height where I'd rest my hand. My breath caught. Frank had loved hummingbirds. We'd had a feeder right there for decades. Josh had remembered a story I'd told once, about Frank trying to photograph one for hours. "Josh," I whispered, my eyes filling. It's perfect." He just smiled a little shyly, and ran his thumb over the carving. "It needed something of him here," he said simply, and went back to sanding. The finished porch was a masterpiece. It was wider, with a gentle ramp on the side for when, as Josh put it, Leo wants to bring your groceries in with his bike. The cedar glowed honey gold in the sun. The new steps were solid as bedrock. He'd even rebuilt the porch swing, using the original chains Frank had used, polishing them until they shone. He'd integrated the saved pieces of the old porch into the latticework underneath. A patchwork of history holding up the new. The neighborhood noticed. Mrs. Henderson from across the street brought over a pie. "You've got a saint for a son-in-law, Marianne," she said, her voice thick with admiration. My friends on the phone cooed about how incredibly kind it was, what a wonderful man Claire had married. And he was. I was awash in gratitude. I felt seen, cared for, in a way that punctured the loneliness. I thought, this is what family does. This is love in action. I wrote Josh a long, emotional thank you card. I tried to slip him a check. He handed it back, folded, and hugged me. "It was my pleasure, Marianne. Really." I believed him. I believed the story we were all telling. The devoted son-in-law, the grieving widow, a simple act of restorative love. It was a beautiful story. And like many beautiful stories, it was not the whole truth. The truth arrived yesterday afternoon. It was windy, a blustery spring day that sent last autumn's stubborn leaves skittering across my new porch. I'd just come back from the grocery store. As I was wrestling with the bags at the top of the new steps, a sudden gust whipped around the house. It caught a crumpled piece of paper that had been wedged underneath the latticework, where Josh had put the old wood. It tumbled out and landed against my foot. It was a sheet of Claire's stationery, the pale blue stuff with her monogram she's used since college. It was badly crumpled, stained with what looked like old coffee and dirt, as if it had been balled up tightly, thrown away, and somehow found its way here, hidden in the bones of the old porch. My first thought was that it was an old shopping list. Maybe it had blown out of the trash during construction. I picked it up, smoothing it against my leg. And I saw my daughter's handwriting. Not her neat, everyday script, but the frantic, jagged, penciled scrawl she gets when she's deeply upset. The date at the top was from 10 weeks ago, 2 weeks before Josh showed up with his toolbox. The note wasn't to me. It wasn't finished. It was a practice run, a scream into the void, a page ripped from a spiral notebook of pain. "Josh, I can't do this anymore. I'm writing this because I can't say it to your face. The talking hasn't worked. The counseling feels like a performance. You're here, but you're not here. You live in my house like a polite roommate. You sleep in my bed like it's a hostel. Leo feels the distance. He asks why Daddy is so sad all the time. I am so lonely I feel like I'm disappearing. This silence between us is going to kill me. It's already killing us. I think we need to talk about separating. I'm so sorry. I love you, but I can't live in this." The sentence trailed off, The pencil lead had dug into the paper and broken. There was a large blurry stain that could only be a teardrop. The world dropped out from under me. The solid new step beneath my feet might as well have been smoke. I sank down, the grocery bags forgotten, the crinkle of paper the loudest sound in the universe. It all crashed into place. The silent, intense focus of Josh's work. This wasn't a hobby project. It was a life raft. He wasn't just building a porch for me, he was building a reason. A reason to be away from a home that had become a prison of silence. A reason to exhaust himself physically, so he wouldn't have to face the emotional exhaustion waiting for him at home. A reason to do something unequivocally good, to prove, perhaps to himself, perhaps to Claire, perhaps to the ghost of Frank, that he was still a good man, a capable man, a man who could build and fix, even if he couldn't fix what was broken between him and my daughter. The hummingbird carving wasn't just a tribute to Frank. It was an apology, a plea, a tiny, perfect piece of beauty carved in the midst of his own devastation. He was using the last of his emotional capital to shore up my world, because he felt his own collapsing. The incredible kindness wasn't the pure, simple gift I'd believed it to be. It was a symptom. It was the magnificent, misguided, heartbreaking strategy of a drowning man trying to save someone else while he went under. I sat on my beautiful new porch, built with love and despair, and I wept. I wept for my daughter, who had been carrying this pain in secret, putting on a brave face for me. I wept for Josh, that good, quiet man who expressed his anguish not with words, but with a hammer and a chisel and a piece of cedar. I wept for Leo, caught in the silent crossfire. And I wept for my own blindness. I had been so wrapped in my own silence, my own grief, that I had missed the catastrophic quietude happening in my own child's life. I didn't know what to do. Confronting Claire felt wrong. This was her secret, her pain to share. Mentioning it to Josh felt like a violation of a sacred, unspoken trust. He had hidden his brokenness in plain sight, in the joints and beams of this porch. To acknowledge I'd found it felt cruel. So I did the only thing I could think of. I folded the note carefully. I didn't throw it away. I went inside, to Frank's old desk, and I took out the heavy leather-bound Bible he'd inherited from his own father. I placed the note between the pages of the Book of Psalms, a book of lament and hope. I closed it. I let it be held there, a secular prayer. Then I called Claire. My voice was steady, but my heart was thundering. "Honey," I said. "The porch is finished. It's absolutely stunning. Josh is a miracle worker." She gushed, her voice bright and brittle. "Isn't it amazing? He was so dedicated. I'm so glad you love it." "I do," I said. "And I was thinking, Josh has been over here every night for 2 weeks. He must be exhausted. And you've been holding down the fort with Leo all alone. That's not fair to you." A pause. "It's fine, Mom. Really?" "No," I said, with a firmness that surprised us both. "It's not. I want you to do something for me. This Saturday. I am coming over. I am taking Leo to the zoo, for the whole day. The entire day. And you and Josh. I am giving you a gift card to that little inn on the lake, the one you loved when you were first married. You are going to go. You are going to have a dinner where you don't talk about Leo or work or my porch. You are going to spend the night. And you are going to talk. Or not talk. But you are going to be in the same room, away from the life that's smothering you. And you are going to remember who you are to each other. No arguments. It's done." The silence on the other end was different from the silence in my house. It was charged, fragile, full of unshed tears. "Mom, you don't have to. I'm not doing it for you." I lied, my own tears coming. "I'm doing it for me. I can't enjoy this beautiful porch knowing the man who built it is too tired to enjoy his own wife. So you'll do this. For me." She finally agreed, her voice a soft whisper. So that's where we are. The porch is a monument to more than Frank's memory now. It's a monument to a struggle I never knew was happening. Josh's incredible act was born from a heart breaking in two. My job now is not to thank him for the wood and nails. My job is to be the quiet space, the safe harbor for both of them. To give them the time and the privacy to try to rebuild what's crumbling between them, with the same care he showed my home. Sometimes the most profound acts of love are not the grand gestures, but the desperate ones. The ones born from broken places. Josh built me a porch to save himself. And in doing so, he may have just given us all the foundation we need to begin again. The real reason breaks my heart. But in the cracks of that broken heart, a new kind of hope is starting to grow. We shall see. We shall see. Thanks for listening. If you want to hear more story like this, please like the video and subscribe the channel. Hit the bell icon to get notified.